everyone, and what is today? Wednesday. Welcome to our Wednesday Wellness Facebook Live. And I'm your host, co-hosting with my daughter. So I'm Nurse Elaine from Gravitas Med Spa, and I am so excited to be hosting this conversation with all of you because this is something that can truly change people's lives. And with me tonight, as I said, is my daughter, Dr. Angelica Alberto, our
Hi there.
integrative physical therapist and holistic coach.
Hi, everyone. So excited to get in this really important conversation. It's something that honestly impacts millions of people today. And what we're going to be diving into is talking about type 2 diabetes, but more importantly, how to prevent and reverse it naturally. So, we're going to dive into some warning signs that you can look out for, whether that's for yourself or for your loved ones, and effective ways that you can start managing it today.
Yes, but before we go into that, I just wanted to thank everyone who greeted me on my birthday yesterday. So I really truly appreciate all of your greetings. So thank you so much. So going back to our topic, the reality is that so many people have prediabetes or diabetes that are they only find out about that because of the complications that may arise from it, right? Because people tend to ignore these signs and symptoms that we're about to talk to you tonight. And but here's the thing, you have more control over your blood sugar than you think. So that's why we're breaking down tonight what are these warning signs, even subtle warning signs of type 2 diabetes that you should never ignore. And what's really going on inside our body when the sugar is out of balance. And also, what are the simple natural ways on how we can control or decrease our hemoglobin A1C so it will help us prevent from having diabetes. So make sure to stick around tonight because we have some special guests that will be sharing their journey and also their experience on how they manage their diabetes, lower down their A1C through natural lifestyle choices, right?
Yes, absolutely. So, if you are watching with us right now, I invite you to take a moment and tag anyone within your circle who you feel like could really benefit from hearing about some of the information we're going to share today. So, let's get right into it.
All right, so let's dive in. Let's start first by knowing what really is diabetes, right? So we have two types of diabetes. First, type 1, which is insulin dependent, okay, where the body truly doesn't produce any insulin at all. So people just rely on the insulin. But what we're going to talk about tonight is the type 2, which is the non insulin diabetes. So what happens to our body when we have type 2 is that the body doesn't produce enough insulin to help um, the glucose go back to our body to be utilized as energy, and also when there's an insulin resistance. So those are causing our blood sugar to stay high in our blood, that's causing this diabetes. Okay, and over time this damage the organs, the blood vessels, and even our nerves. That's why it increases the risk of heart disease, kidney failure, and even vision problems. That's why a lot of people are having problems because there are what we call as the macro complications and micro complications where it damages, goes through the little tiny veins inside our body. And that's one of the things that's happening inside in our eyes. That's why, we have vision problems. So what is the key takeaway from this? Diabetes doesn't just happen overnight, it builds up. So that's why it's very, very important that we catch this early on so that it will make a whole lot of difference. So it will prevent you from having type 2 diabetes, right?
Right. 100%. And we speak to this from a very personal place where we have grown up just being surrounded by family members who have been impacted by this and not knowing this kind of information early enough to make those changes. So that's why we just wanted to spread some light on this. So it's not a diagnosis that, once again, like my mom just said, does not happen overnight. So we want to start being weary and conscious of what those precursor signs and symptoms really are. So let's get into that. So here are some of the most common warning signs of high blood sugar. And once again, if any of these sound familiar, it could be worth getting it checked out or talking to a provider that you know and trust. So we'll start with one is constant thirst and frequent urination. If you find yourself waking up multiple times a night to pee, or no matter how much you drink, you still feel like you're thirsty, this is a very classic sign your blood sugar is too high.
And just in addition to that, this is not just like a frequent urination. When you find yourself urinating more often in larger amounts, okay, because the glucose is trying to get rid
Clear.
of it attracts water. The kidney attracts water, so then it's trying to get rid of that out of the bloodstream. So that's why it's your kidneys are producing more water, so it causes you to urinate more often. And of course, what happens when you tend to urinate more often, you become thirsty. So this is like the classic signs of diabetes, which is the polyuria, which is the frequent urination, and the polydipsia, which is the constant thirst. And of course, and then what you will feel different about this as well is even after drinking water, you still feel thirsty. So that is like something that you need to keep an eye out.
Right. And the next thing is unexplained weight loss. So this is very nuanced. I know, it losing weight does sound nice, from a practical standpoint, but the rule of thumb is if you find yourself losing 10 pounds over a short period of time or just unexplainable, you haven't really changed anything, it's just a sign that your body also may not actually be processing glucose properly. Because once again, glucose is what our body uses as energy, and it gets distributed to all of the different important organs and systems in our body. So what starts to happen is if our body can't receive energy from the glucose stores, it starts to break down muscle. So that is definitely something that we don't want to happen.
And next is extreme fatigue. So because you're losing all those muscles, so you feel exhausted all the time, even after full night's sleep. So that's just signals that there's a high blood sugar that's preventing your cells from getting the energy that they need.
Right. And then next thing is, as my mom was starting to spotlight it, this can also start to impact our vision. So, number four is blurred vision. Blood sugar fluctuations can cause swelling in the lenses of our eyes, which can make it really hard to focus. Once again, when there's a high amount of glucose or sugar running through our bloodstream, that can start to calcify and harden certain arteries. And that's definitely something that we don't want. And arteries also leading to our eyes. So, it's very important to get that checked out.
And another symptom that you should watch out for is the slow healing of your wounds. Because if that happens, that means your blood sugar is really high and it has affected already your circulation and your immune system.
Yes. And then the last few things, a really important one is tingling or numbness in both hands or both feet. So this is called diabetic neuropathy, and it happens when the blood sugar in our the blood sugar is so high that it starts to impact our nerves.
Yeah, and the other one that's also another symptom, another classic symptom of diabetes is what we call the polyphagia. So that's like frequent eating. Even if you just ate or just have eaten something, you still feel hungry. It's because the body is not able to use those glucose for energy. So that's why you're constantly hungry.
Right. And another thing, last thing is darkened skin patches. So around the neck area, elbows, behind the knees. These are also classic signs of building insulin resistance or a precursor, once again, to type 2 diabetes. If you see those dark, velvety, like a different skin texture around these areas, then that's also something that warrants being worried about how your blood sugar levels are.
And just to explain a little bit further on that dark pigmentations, especially on the neck, under the arms or the armpits, the groin, or even in the belly, because the hormone melanocytes, it produces melanin, and those are melanin is the one that causes pigmentation of the skin. And the problem is melanin is very sensitive to insulin. So if you have high levels of insulin, it attracts more melanin. So that's what's causing those dark patches on your
Mm.
skin. And it's most common on, the neck, underarm, the groin, and your belly area. And sometimes it follows with skin tags because it grows on those dark patches as well.
Yes. So if you're experiencing any of these signs, once again, even if you haven't been formally diagnosed, take them seriously. Blood sugar isn't just something, once again, that happens overnight in high quantities. It's important to catch them early so that we can start treating them effectively and not to the point we need to rely on some kind of medication to control them.
Exactly, because if it's catch early on, it can be reversed. That's what that's why you will hear the doctor say this can be managed by diet, exercise, or other natural changes in our lifestyle. So we are going to bring on our guests. So because we have natural ways in lowering our hemoglobin A1C and balancing the blood sugar. So let's get into the real solutions, which are simple, science backed ways to lower the blood sugar naturally and improve the insulin sensitivity. So would you like to introduce our
Yes.
guest tonight,
So our
Angel?
special guest tonight is such an incredible human. He has a very, very powerful story. He shares that at one point his A1C levels were around 8.3. And when he had started incorporating these natural, effective strategies and this particular metabolic protocol that we're going to share with you all in just a bit, he was only about 3 weeks in it and had dropped to 7.6. And now, 20 months in, it is 5.2, and he is now no longer medicated. So, this is Jimmy Elizondo, and we're excited to bring him on. Hi, Jimmy. How are you doing
And
this evening?
Hello, how
hi,
are y'all? I'm
Jimmy.
wonderful.
And
Good.
let's bring in also our other guest, who's an expert also in this protocol that we're about to share with you all. She was an exercise physiologist and she also ran cardiac rehab clinic in the past and now a health coach. So let's welcome Megan O'Brien. Hello, Megan. Thank
Hello,
you
good to be
for
here.
being with us. Okay. So, Jimmy, can you share with us, or before we start asking Jimmy his experience, Megan, anything that you want to add, to our topic that we already discussed earlier? Or there's something that you want to add on to that?
I would just say, you hit so many of the symptoms that lead up to developing type 2 diabetes. And so many of these symptoms might seem innocuous at the time. Skin tags, I had skin tags. I thought it was no big deal. I thought it was just I'm getting older. But these are all symptoms that your body is sending you saying, hey, pay attention. If you don't do something now, you're going to find yourself in a pickle down the road with a diagnosis that you're not going to want. And so luckily I was able to figure out and connect the dots between the skin tags I was developing, the excess weight that I had gained, the brain fog, and a few other things. And I took the necessary steps towards stopping what I was doing and starting to reverse those things. And I no longer deal with any of those now.
Amazing. So let's hear from Jimmy, his actual experience about the transformation that happened in your life. So share it with us, Jimmy.
All right. Well, so about 13 years ago, I was just living the best life, and I had just had a son. He was only a year old, and I was still playing sports, and things were going wonderful. And then all of a sudden, I lost about 50 pounds in the matter of 2 months. And so I knew something was wrong. And so I had gone to the doctor, and I had gotten diagnosed with hyperthyroidism. So I had the overactive thyroid, and that's what was causing everything. And so I asked the doctor, what would be the best solution for me to go ahead and fix this? And he said to have a thyroidectomy. And so I was like, well, you're the doctor, you know what's best, right? And that's what a lot of us do rather than going and doing research. I just said, well, you're the doc, let's do it. And so I had a total thyroidectomy 12 years ago, back in December. And that's basically when all of my health issues began. Started by putting the weight back on, and then next thing I knew, I was having to go to the doctor every single 3 months to get my lab work done. And then they tell me that I'm pre-diabetic, and then 3 months later, you've got high blood pressure. Then you got to go get an ultrasound done on your liver because we think you may have a fatty liver. Then I got diagnosed with sleep apnea, and it was just like one thing after another that just kept piling on and on. And every single time that I went to the doctor, it was another medication that they were throwing on me. Next thing that I knew, I was a type 2 diabetic. And you were talking about some of those signs and symptoms. I really didn't know that those were signs and symptoms. But yeah, like my body healing from wounds and stuff, it would take forever for that. I started getting the acanthosis nigricans, which is the darkening of the skin tags. I had all kinds of signs that it was all there. I got to the point in my life to where I was chronically fatigued, and I had no energy, no thrive, no drive. And I blame it all on being sick. And I missed a lot of my son growing up because I was sick and I didn't have any energy to do anything. And luckily, I was just scrolling on TikTok one evening and found the protocol that we all have known to come and love. So that's basically where things began with it.
Amazing. I mean, just hearing it from somebody now, that after we talk about like this warning signs, that people should not ignore, is truly is like they need to really take um, feel for themselves and see what's going on with their body,
Right.
or how they feel, because this is really a game changer. So with what Jimmy is talking about, the protocol that has helped his life, change his life, right, Jimmy?
Most definitely.
Yeah, so this is like a the protocol that's really all natural and no downtime, no side effects, and you will feel about the great benefits of this. And we request Megan to explain more about that protocol.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. The protocol is simple, and that's why I like it, because I've worked with people for 27 years, and if it's not simple, then people are not going to be consistent, and consistency is what really truly equals success. And so the protocol is very simple. It is two things, because we know with insulin resistance, you've got to control insulin, right? You have too much
Mhm.
insulin in your body, you're in a state of hyperinsulinemia, and your cells are resistant to insulin knocking on the door. And so in order to control insulin, doing some intermittent fasting is going to be key, because we're skipping usually a meal, we're shrinking our eating window, and therefore we're not having as many glucose spikes throughout the day. So intermittent fasting, some people can do it, but many people struggle with this. And I was one of the
Yes.
people that struggled to do it consistently. I love to eat, and it was very hard for me. And so, one part of the protocol is a yerba mate tea that's specifically designed with high levels of chlorogenic acid, which is very anti inflammatory. And you basically, I'm still sipping on mine right now, but you sip on this one in the morning to get you through usually most people skip their breakfast. And that just means that we're having less spikes in our glucose because we have one less meal during the day and no snacking. And I'm a snacker. even though I was snacking on healthy things, it was spiking my glucose all day long. And so the second part of the protocol, you get two of the yerba mates and you sip one in the morning to skip breakfast, the second one to skip usually the snacks between lunch and dinner. That reduces the glucose spikes throughout the day. Your insulin's starting to fall. If you've got weight you need to lose, you start seeing the weight loss because when insulin is low, the fat will go, right? And we're starting to control insulin at that point. And then the second part of the protocol is just a fiber matrix. And we know 97% of the country struggles with getting enough fiber in. I do, and I eat pretty healthy. But it is hard. It's hard to get the fiber in, and we want to be eating that fiber with our meal. So the second part of the protocol is a fiber matrix. It's 7 different types of fibers that all I do before I eat my biggest meal of the day. I pour this in about 6 ounces of cold water. I shake it up and I chug it. In 5 seconds, it's down in my belly, and it's creating a really thick, viscous like gel, and that is what is going to create the barrier for whatever food, my meal that I'm eventually going to eat, is drastically, that glucose spike is drastically minimized. So there may be a small little glucose spike, but it requires just a small amount of insulin to manage it. And so little by little, consistently, that is where we start seeing real results. And I know you, Elaine, both of you are in the medical field, and seeing that this has over 12 clinical studies, it's in the physician's desk reference, that's what got my attention.
Yes.
The fact that there's no contraindications. A lot of people are on medications today, so we want to make sure that there's not going to be any conflict with any of the medication that they're currently taking. So that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, that's really what attracted me, is because there's a lot of research studies, scientifically proven, and a lot of people that really experience the benefit of this protocol. And I just wanted to ask Jimmy, how what was your initial A1C before you started the protocol?
So initially it was about 8.3. At the highest though, it had gotten up to about 11.4.
Oh wow.
So yeah, it was really high. But they also had me. Eventually, I was on max metformin, 2,000 milligrams a day, on Farxiga and on Mounjaro. So I was taking all three of those every single day just to manage my diabetes.
Wow. And then it went down to how much?
And well, now it's down to a 5.2, uh,
Wow.
but that's with the protocol.
That's amazing, Jimmy.
That's
I
amazing.
also wanted to just share something that you brought up earlier about your experience when you received that information from your doctor saying, hey, you need to get your thyroid removed. Like, how just sharing that reflects to a narrative that's experienced by so many other people as well, where we instantly believe, the immediate, worst case scenario, instead of giving our body natural means and support to heal on its own. And you are such a living testament of what that looks like. So thank you for sharing your powerful story. And now I'm sure the work that you're doing is also changing the lives of so many people today. So really, really incredible work.
It is, and like I said, I wish I would have done my research, because actually I just found out the other day that hyperthyroidism is a symptom of the insulin resistance. And why do our doctors not tell us about insulin resistance? And a lot of it has to do with because they're not taught that stuff. And they're taught how to prescribe on symptoms. And I wish that I would have done my research, because I would have gone a totally different route. But I'm so glad that I did take this route, because now I've been learning a lot, along the way, and it's totally changed my life. It's been kind of a whirlwind, because I found out from TikTok that I'm insulin resistant. The guy that I came across, he was talking about insulin resistance, and I'm like, is this guy like talking to me directly, through the camera? I feel like every single thing that you're talking about, that's me, that's me, that's me. Every single thing is me. And then they brought up the fact that the protocol has a 90-day money back guarantee. And so that was the biggest reason why I decided to give it a try, is because of the 90-day money back guarantee. And I'm kind of cheap. I was going to get my money back in that 90 days. But in that 90 days, I was able to reverse my type 2 diabetes, reverse my fatty liver, reverse my sleep apnea, blood pressure. All of that stuff started going away. Everything started normalizing. And I was down 46 pounds in that first 90 days. And so
Wow.
I was like, there's no way that I'm going to even think about getting my money back. I want to push this and see how far I can do this. And so now I've, like you said a little while ago, I've been on it for about 20 months, and I'm down 88 pounds off of 8 medications total. And I've got my life back, and it's just been totally amazing.
Oh my gosh. Just listening to you, Jimmy, it's just like I feel so good because I wanted to help a lot of people. So for those of you who are watching and resonating with, the symptoms that we had just talked about, maybe it's time for you to get checked, because then you will be able to get your life back, just like Jimmy, right? So Jimmy, how long before you saw that drop or change in your A1C and all the other improvement?
So when I first started, the my initial A1C before I had started on the protocol was an 8.3. And then I wanted that starting baseline to see if the protocol actually worked. And so I went back to the doctor and got it done 3 weeks into it. And my A1C was a 7.6. And then, like I was saying, I had to go back every 3 months to get my lab work done. And in that first 90 days, it went from a 7.6 down to a 5.5. And so it literally dropped, to where I was no longer diabetic in that first 90 days. And then, like I said, I just kept going and going. And with the help of my doctor, I was able to, slowly get off of those medications and eventually get off of all of them. And so unmedicated now, I just went the other day and I'm at a 5.2. So
So you're
it's
not taking
been
the medications that the doctor prescribed to you.
right.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, I feel like so many of us, when we're prescribed something, we think it's something that we're going to have to be on forever. I mean, there's kind of like no limit to how long someone's going to be on it. But with this, I mean, what pharmaceutical medication has a 90-day back guarantee?
Mhm.
I mean, it just shows the nature of how much, this company really does believe in its mission and its effectiveness. And it's just important that people have an option now instead of just being confined to what conventional medicine tells them they need to in order to address these lifestyle related conditions. So once again, Jimmy, thank you a million for sharing your story. And, we're excited to share this with our community as well, because there's definitely a lot of people who probably are feeling very, very just spotlit because it's more common than we realize. So, yeah.
Right.
There's
Um,
hope at
I
the end of
just
the tunnel. Go ahead, Jimmy.
I just wanted to throw one last thing in there. When I first started this, I wasn't very educated on your health or anything, and I'm kind of like that second shift, person that goes in at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So, I'm not the, 8 to 4s, the 9 to 5s, and by the time I get off of work, I've got to um, be mindful of my son and my wife that they're sleeping, and I can't be like making these nice, voluptuous dinners and stuff to where I can watch what I was eating. And in that first 90 days, I was still eating horribly. I was literally pushing this system to a test, and I was still eating fast food. And I hate to say that, but I was. And I was able to pull all that stuff off in that first 90 days just by incorporating the intermittent fasting, no longer eating breakfast, no longer snacking, only eating lunch, only eating dinner, making sure that I had my yerba mate and had my fiber consistently. I did it consistently every single day, did not miss one single packet, and I was able to get those results without a thyroid. But since then, I have changed my ways, and I do eat a lot healthier now, because my gut microbiome has pretty much fixed itself, and so I crave the really good foods now. But For those of you that are skeptical, I was very skeptical, and I put it through the ringer, and the system actually works. And so I want to get on every single rooftop and yell that if I can do it, you can do it too.
Yep.
That's so true. And just for the record, for those of you who are watching, this is just the first time we met Jimmy, because we just like asked Megan if he knows anyone that can share their firsthand experience about the benefits, about the improvement that they get from the protocol. So that's why Jimmy's here right now with us. So it's our first time meeting Jimmy. So it's amazing, and thank you so much for your time. So imagine if you will just deal with the insulin resistance, like so much symptoms, so much diseases that can be controlled or can be helped by just controlling that insulin resistance. And this protocol that we just discussed, or we are talking about, can help with that. So if you're interested about this protocol that we just discussed, just comment protocol in the comment section, or if you have any questions about this protocol that we just discussed, feel free to send us a message or just comment protocol, and we will help guide you on how to do this protocol. And it's very important that you combine this with intermittent fasting. Talking about intermittent fasting, I know it's difficult for a lot of people, especially in the beginning. So that's why we will guide you with that. And talking about that, I'm going into my 24th hour of fasting. So 7:30 is, oh, I'm actually like past my 24-hour fasting, and I did not even crave for food. I've just been chugging my unimate, and then you know what I replaced my meal with is the balance. So it
Mhm.
made me full, and I did not crave for any foods or any snacks. And I have that willpower. I'm gonna go through the 24-hour fasting, and I did. I'm just so happy. I finished my 24-hour fasting. And let's see if I can push it to 36 hours. Because if I sleep through this and they just wake up, so another 12 hours, it will be 7:30 a.m. Let's see if I'll be able to stretch that. But I want to stretch that to 36 hour. And I will keep you guys posted and updated about that. Because this is the first time I'm going to do a 36-hour fasting.
That's one way to ring in
Nice.
your next year of life, Mom. That's
I
great.
love it. I
What were you
love
saying,
it.
Megan?
I'm so
And
excited.
this makes it easy because I struggled for 7 months to intermittent fast. This helps your body produce its own GLP-1, similar
Yes.
to the injections and things like this, but this has no side effects. It's natural. It helps your body produce its own GLP-1. It turns off the food noise, suppresses the appetite naturally. And like Jimmy said, I mean, people can start wherever you're at. And what I found is that when you come to people and say we have to overhaul everything,
Mhm.
they kind of just go a little bit blank. But with this protocol, you can plug this into what you're already doing, and it slowly but surely will start to change your microbiome, just like Jimmy said. And you're going to start, that's your second brain, right? So you will start craving better foods, and you will lose the craving for some of the other junk foods. And little by little, you start making headway. And it's just fantastic. Jimmy has been one of the my favorite people I've ever gotten to interview because his story just tugged at my heart when I think it's met you like a year ago or something, Jimmy. I can't remember, but when you told me how much you were struggling with the chronic fatigue and how just tired you were, and you couldn't show up for yourself, and that chronic fatigue was really getting the best of you. I mean, that alone really got me thinking. A lot of people struggle with fatigue, maybe not to the extent that you did, but I know there's a lot of people that do. So I love that you're giving people hope, and we're all here to educate and let people know there is an option.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I know we can talk about this all night long because this is such a very important topic that a lot of people like doesn't really pay attention to. So I hope that if this live really touch you, or have you have learned something and you want to share, prevent your loved ones from diabetes, please like or heart this video and share this video to your friends, to your family, to your loved ones. This is just to educate them and prevent them. And if they already do have diabetes or if they're pre-diabetic, that can be reversed. So thank you all so much for tuning in with us tonight. And as I said earlier, if you have any questions about the protocol that we just discussed, just comment protocol if you want to get some help, or just simply send us a message. Okay, thank you so much until our next Facebook Live next Wednesday. And thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Jimmy. Really appreciate your time
So much.
tonight and
You're welcome.
really appreciate that. Okay, thank you and have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.